Very, very good afternoon to all present here. Before I start, I would like to take the opportunity to thank CSIR NISPER for giving me the opportunity to speak about open access in India. What I'm going to talk about today is basically a background of all the work which was done at the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, and the work which has ultimately resulted in the recent initiative on One Nation, One Subscription, which was approved by the Union Cabinet on 25th of November 2024. It was a major milestone in terms of the efforts that India is doing in terms of moving towards a more open access to knowledge society, and the importance of all of it I will be highlighting in the slides which are to come. So the main motivation why we had started with this work was it's enshrined in the principle of everyone has the right freely to share in scientific advancements and its benefits, which is given in the Article 27 of the UN's Universal Declaration on Human Rights, and it was affirmed in the recent recommendation on open science by UNESCO in November 2021. So it highlights how important open access is. It is a human right for us to take part in knowledge which has emerged from research activities which have taken place as part of funding which has been provided by the public, by the government. And the importance of articles and journals in distribution of this knowledge, in providing this knowledge to everyone, is also highly critical. And hence, the open access movement in India, if we take a look back, it has started way back in 1998 with Pramana, the physics journal of the Indian Academy of Sciences. It went open access. Then in the year 2002, India's first institutional repository was set up at the IISc, ePrints. Followed by, in 2004, a series of high-level meetings and workshops which were held on open access, spearheaded by MS Swaminathan Foundation. And as a result of these high-level meetings, the National Knowledge Commission, in its recommendation, had proposed that access to knowledge is the most fundamental way of increasing the opportunities and research of individuals and groups. Also in 2006, India's first institutional mandate of open access was adopted by NIT Roorkela. Followed by 2011, where CSIR constituted the Committee for Implementation of Open Access Policy in CSIR. In 2013, the Indian Council for Agricultural Research adopted open access policy for the establishment of open access institutional repositories for ICAR institutions. Then, as the session chair also had mentioned about the DBT-DST joint open access mandate, which was also released in 2014. And the most recent was in 2020, the draft STIP policy, the policy is still not formalized, had proposed to make preprints, postprints available through a central repository and propose an overarching policy instrument on One Nation, One Subscription to gain open access to global scientific literature. So even in India, open access had started in a very distributed manner across institutions, across departments. And in 2018, at the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, it was undertaken that a national effort is required to bring about pragmatic change in the ecosystem so that we are also in time with the other countries where global open access movements have also started in one way or the other, and we are also taking a step in that direction. So, lessons were learned from whatever is happening elsewhere worldwide, like there is the Plan S by the European funding agencies and research councils. Then we have the Diamond Open Access, which is very prevalent in the Latin American countries. Then also in the US, we see UC Berkeley at institutional level had done landmark deals on open access. Seeing all of that, a call was taken as to how can lessons be learnt and applied to the unique publication landscape in India. Now, what makes it unique in the Indian context is the fact that government has a major stake when it comes to the cost of publications, be it from the point of view of subscriptions or be it from the point of view of APCs. So, in terms of subscriptions, before ONOS came up, there were about 10 library consortia in the country, which were being run by various ministries and departments. And in 2018, all the consortia together paid about rupees 1,500 crores in 2018 and up to about 1,000 crores in 2020-21. And in terms of APCs also, a huge chunk of money in terms of about 300 crores had been paid in the year 2021. So the estimate of the cost was taken, and also taking into account what are the problems that we are facing, not just in terms of publication in general, but also the context in India. So these were that there are legacy payment structures from the print era, massive outlay for subscriptions, but the access is still restricted, the duplication or the overlap in the resources which are being subscribed by various consortia, and exorbitant APCs. So considering all these problems, what is a solution that we can come up in the Indian context so that we are also able to achieve the dream of open access in a very practical and pragmatic manner? So a three-pronged approach was adopted, in which the first short-term step was taken as One Nation, One Subscription, that is unifying library subscriptions across the country, so that this also results in uniform pricing. This also results in more efficient use of our financial resources for getting subscription to the same resources, and also it is an opportunity to expand access much further than we could have ever imagined if the existing model of subscriptions were to continue. The next step is also which is a more longer term step, which is to promote Indian journals as well as repositories. I will come on to each of them in detail again, and also the new research evaluation methodologies which need to be adopted, which have lesser dependence on journals. I'm not saying entirely independent of journals, that may be a big step change, but at least reduce the dependence and increase weightage of other parameters which can be considered for evaluation. So I'll just speak about ONOS first and then move on to how ONOS fits into the larger picture of open access. So the need for ONOS was felt because not just from the Indian point of view, but this is applicable globally, that for an innovative society with aspirations for deep tech advancements, especially considering India's targets for becoming a developed nation by 2047, access to knowledge is a key requirement, and this is essential to avoid rediscovering the wheel and also to generate and share new knowledge. So, One Nation, One Subscription was launched as a central sector scheme with a budget of rupees 6,000 crore for 3 years. That is starting from the from the calendar year 2025 to 2027. And this is going to be a national consortium for journal subscriptions. Two main components of this scheme are firstly to account for subscription journals, where there will be centrally negotiated, centrally funded national subscriptions for e-journals, and access to be provided to every individual in the country who needs it. And the second component would be also to account for certain central funding, that is to the tune of rupees 150 crore per year for supporting APCs of selected good quality open access journals. This slide here captivates the benefits of ONOS. So, In terms of the increase in the number of users, students, faculty, researchers, currently under the current consortia model of subscriptions, we are able to provide the access to just about 56.7 lakh users, which will increase by more than 200% and we'll be able to provide access to these journals to 178 lakh users. Then there will be a significant increase in the number of beneficiary institutions. Under the consortia model, only 2,360 institutions were getting the benefit, which is now going to increase to 6,380. Actually, the number is much greater than this because after ONOS was launched, many more institutions started approaching us. Eligible institutions started approaching us, and the number has gone up to 6,700 also. So just to quickly show and in terms of what are the institutions that we are targeting. So we have the institutions which have been covered are the government academic and R&D institutions. We have the institutes of national importance, which includes the IITs, NITs, IISc, etc. Then the state and central universities. It was about 293 universities earlier, which is increasing to 557 now. And the major chunk of the increase is our colleges. Earlier about 1,500 colleges were getting the benefit. This will now increase to 4,800. This includes colleges which come under the UGC as well as the AICTE. Then there are other institutions under the Ministry of Education, and finally the last bar is this last but one is the institutions under other ministries where all the R&D labs under government will be falling under this category. Then another benefit is also in terms of the increase in the journal titles. So we have negotiated for full collection access from each of the 30 publishers who have been made part of ONOS. And as a result of that, there's going to be 66% increase in the number of journals which will be accessible to each user. And the final benefit is the wider access to journals by each user. So in the consortia model, the users were getting access only to discipline specific content, but under ONOS, each user under every consortia will now be able to get access to content from other disciplines as well, and this is going to be a great push for interdisciplinary research in the country, and which is also going to dovetail into other national policies like the Anusandhan National Research Foundation ANRF and the NEP, the National Education Policy 2020. Both of these policies are aimed at improving the research and education ecosystem. The NEP 2020 talks about moving towards a more holistic and multidisciplinary education, while ANRF aims to promote research in universities and colleges where research capacity is still at a nascent stage. So as we have seen from the previous slide, ONOS very well is able to fulfill both the objectives, both the major objectives of these schemes, and it is a very key instrument in achieving the national goals that we have targeted through the NEP as well as the Anusandhan National Research Foundation. So this is just to show the list of 30 publishers that we have been able to successfully bring on board after very tough negotiations which went on from November 2022 to May 2024. Long drawn negotiations were held with all of them, and as you can see, the big names in the publishing industry, Elsevier, Springer, IEEE, Wiley, Taylor Francis have all agreed to come on board, and every single journal that each of these publishers is publishing is now available through ONOS to all the researchers across the country, researchers falling under the government institutions as of now. So the phases of ONOS that we have planned, the first phase, which is for 3 years, is aimed at merging all the library consortia and bringing in more institutions. So these institutions, more institutions, were the ones which were government institutions but were not able to afford subscriptions. So even they have been brought in, and this is a major step in bringing in the tier 1 and tier 2 academic and research institutions in the country. The phase 2 will be aimed at bringing in private academic institutions through public-private partnership model, and the phase 3 will be about universal access through designated access points at public libraries. And we are also covering all streams of STEM, management, social sciences and humanities. So just to depict how ONOS fits into the overall landscape of knowledge dissemination having two key aspects, that is reading and publishing. So under the reading aspect, where the subscription model, even though the main resources of knowledge the journals have transitioned from print to electronic, the payment structures were still continuing in the digital era. So in the Indian scenario, about 1,000 crores was spent for only 57 lakh users, where much more users could have been brought under the ambit. And that is exactly what ONOS has tried to achieve, where with double the increase in the current outlay, which is from 1,000 crores a year to about 1,800 crores a year, we will now be able to give access to 178 lakh users. So at double the cost, many more users have been provided the access, and this is something which is unprecedented worldwide, and it is a major achievement from in case of, at least in the subscription model, where the pricing has been negotiated a lot. And in terms of the publishing side of things, where the author pays to make the article open access, but the challenge still remains that the APCs are still exorbitant. ONOS has strived to support our researchers to provide APC funding for APCs for publishing in very high quality open access journals. And the mechanism for it is being worked out as of now. So in the path to open access, the first step we has taken is oriented towards subscription model with a certain aspect of APCs or open access included in it, which we will further expand in the next phases. And we acknowledge the other global efforts which have been taking place in form of transformative agreements, Diamond Open Access and Green Open Access. And I'll also be highlighting how we have tried to account for these, and will also try to accommodate these in the coming phases. And just to put into context as to why we started with the subscription model is very clearly depicted in this graph here, where the percentage share of subscription and open access articles in 2023 by the 30 publishers who were covered under ONOS is depicted here. So the One Nation, One Subscription basically covers all that is depicted in grey and orange here, which is non-open access and the hybrid open access journals also, where subscription part of it has been negotiated. So if you can see, much of the journals which are subscribed, or the journals which the articles which are being published by our users are in subscription journals, and that is exactly the content that we have tried to address in the beginning, and then we move on to how this subscription can be brought down and open access can be elevated through different models which we are currently exploring. Just to give an idea, in 2018 when we started this open access initiative at the office of PSA, 75% of the articles from India were still in subscription journals, and that over the years has reduced to 65%, which is still a significant number in 2023. So this is just to say that ONOS is not a value judgment on the subscription-based model of knowledge dissemination. Rather, it is an adoption of the most practical India-specific solution towards expanding knowledge access till a sustainable open access model is achieved globally. And I'll just go back to the vision slide here, where I will just touch upon what in terms of diamond open access, or the closest model of publishing which is closest to diamond open access which is prevalent in India, is that there are Indian journals being published by various academies, science academies, research institutions in the country, CSIR being one of the institutions here. Actually, earlier in the morning, Dr. Ranjana mentioned that it is 15 journals from CSIR which are platinum open access, so I'll correct this figure. But it is a great service that institutions like CSIR are doing to the country, where they're not charging the author or the reader, but disseminating knowledge, high quality knowledge. And the government's efforts will now be to explore ways as to how to encourage users to publish in Indian journals as well. And in terms of green open access, India currently has about 105 open access repositories in the country. Now, there is still issues which need to be addressed when it comes to green open access. I mean, first of all, we need to ensure that peer-reviewed versions of the manuscripts are available in these repositories. Then there are certain legal aspects also involved here, where it will require authors to give non-exclusive license to deposit in repositories. Now, this is something which needs to be worked out. This is something which needs to be incorporated into the contract between the authors and publishers. Then, as the session chair had mentioned about enforcing funder mandates, currently whatever policies are in place are not mandatory. We need to come up with ways as how to make these policies mandatory, in terms of, say, in the grant evaluation process, can we bring in checks to make sure that the results, the outcomes, or the articles published out of the research of the previous grants, have they been deposited in institutional repositories or not? So certain checks and mechanisms need to be brought in to enforce such mandates. And considering that there are already 105, I think the number has increased up to 110 open access repositories in the country. What the government is looking at is, instead of creation of new repositories, what can we do to enhance interoperability, interlinking between these repositories, and not just amongst national repositories, but also link them with international repositories. And this was discussed and supported by the G20 countries during the G20 Chief Science Advisors Roundtable, which was held in 2023, organized by our office. And also there is a recent agreement in April 2024 between the Confederation of Open Access Repositories and InflibNet, which is the implementing agency for ONOS, to coalesce and strengthen the substantial network of open science repositories in the country. So efforts are ongoing on all fronts in India. I would just say that ONOS is a very loud statement that we have stepped up our efforts in this direction, and we are trying to do the best that we can in the Indian context. And finally, I would like to address the aspect of transformative agreements. Just my last slide, sir. So transformative agreements as well. We are very well aware that India, some institutions have started adopting. I would like to acknowledge the Department of Atomic Energy, which has launched the One DAE One subscription initiative, where transformative agreements are a part of, have been adopted. So the next phase in ONOS would be to see how can we go for deals like transformative agreements at a national level. That is yet to be seen. But another aspect that we are considering is how to make APCs more affordable altogether. So these are the directions in which currently the Indian government is working towards. And of course, current priority is the rollout of ONOS in its full capacity. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure for me to share this knowledge, share this work with all of you. And thanks to the French delegation as well for sharing their insights. Thank you.
Long live India and France friendship.